This is the strategy that works. We've been doing this for the last 3.5 years, and it's going to get the most levels of engagement.
Because I say it respectfully. It's time to eat up, right like a speeder, taking it deeper, and that's how it better be. I never let the comparison get to me. I just remember the promises meant for me. I know the enemy and that he's sent for me. I keep the blood of the lemons, my centerpiece. I cannot trust in no crystals or energy. Look at the chemistry, it do not even mix chemically. Most of the tricks, they be gimmicks, they mimic the truth. It's poison and we got the remedy.
And what we're looking for is people that are hungry, wanting to hustle, wanting to break through walls, wanting to go after that legendary status.
They say you ain't about it. Tell them that you finna make it, but they doubt it. But you rose like the flower. Tell me what it's like to live with superpowers. I don't know, but I'ma get it. I'ma get it. I'ma get it. I'ma get it. I just know that I'ma get it. I'ma get it. I'ma get it. I'ma get it. I'ma get it.
What's up, guys? I'm Kyle Myland. It's Tuesday. Let's talk about industrial marketing. For those of you that are new to the content, head over to YouTube, subscribe, and turn on notifications. We've got over 1,700 videos probably now coming at you live from Austin, Texas, every Tuesday at noon. We're talking about industrial marketing every other Thursday? The first Thursday and the third Thursday of the month, I think, we talk about industrial sales. So today's a little bit different because we're talking about selling and marketing of technical products and the issues that you guys face around it. I am the CEO, owner, founder of MFG Tribe Industrial Marketing Agency. We've got over 28, I think, employees now, just dominating the space. So we deal with this every single day, selling, marketing what you guys do in industrial. And so that's why we come to provide as much content as value as possible. For those of you that are joining, watching this live, let me know where you're coming from. Put a comment in the comment section. I'm going to go through 3 bullet points, very high level, strategic stuff that you guys are dealing with. Then we'll take a break and go into the comments and answer any questions or comments live on the show. And then we'll let you guys go on about your day, whether it's to go eat lunch or jump into your next meeting, cold calls, marketing, outbound, etc. All right, so challenges of marketing and selling technical products. This is still, so I spent like 12, 13 years selling and marketing technical stuff on the plastic side and equipment, and 4 years or so as an engineer. So I know this space, and we deal with it with our clients, and we deal with it with prospects all the time of what are the top issues that you guys run into. Number one issue I see, we going blue or green? All right, I'm going blue. Is there a hotspot on this thing?
A little bit to your right, but you're good
All in left? All right, number one. I'm just going to call it specs versus solutions. And I know some of you guys may be like, I know where he's going with this because I've said it dozens and dozens and dozens of times. And we also talk about it in Industrial Sales University. So the common issue is in industrial manufacturing companies, usually, a lot of times, not always, but the salesperson, the highest salesperson, the VP of sales, has the most technical knowledge because the owners, upper management, et cetera, think whoever knows the most about what it is that we do from a technical standpoint, whether it's a service or the technicalities behind the product, that person should be in charge of sales because, of course, the customers, potential customers, are going to ask technical questions. So I want my salesperson to be able to answer everything. Here's the issue with that, is that there's a process to sales. You go from selling, building value, offering up a solution, et cetera. Then you go into the closing phase. And from closing, you don't go back to selling. You don't, like, depending on what the conversation is when you're trying to close somebody, you got to stay in that closing phase. Sometimes you have to add a little bit of value if you didn't do a good job in the selling phase to provide enough value as to why you guys can charge for your service the way that you do, or why your product's going to solve their issue, or the availability of the product, or the price of the product, or whatever it is. But too often, the highest, most technical person is always in the technical side. So they're missing the cues in the sales process to move directly into closing. They're just there to sell spec sheets. And what I mean by that is, hey, look, they do the show up and throw up in a presentation. Somebody invites them to come in. Hey, I want to give you guys a presentation about our service or our product. Cool. Next Tuesday at 10. They go in there and they just show up and throw up information. This is what we do. This is what we have. This is why it's better. This is why the competitor stuff sucks. This is why you should go for us. It's just building and selling the specs, the tech, and throwing up that information on top of the person. What usually happens is, number one, they're not finding out what is the actual solution. So specs versus solutions. You have to discover the problem first. So technical salespeople and people in industrial manufacturing usually do more talking than listening in a sales process. They're not asking questions, waiting for those responses, and then offering up the solution. They're like, all right, let me explain a little bit about myself and what we do. And they go blah, 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 blah. And then before you know it, in the conference room, on the call, in Zoom, in person, people are just starting to check out and they're not listening as closely because you're not offering up engagement to them. You're not asking them questions. So you need to go into it and say, hey, look, they have some sort of problem. Your goal as a salesperson is to figure out what is the problem and then offer them up a solution to that problem. So being strategic about your questions, you have to first identify what the problem is. What type of issues are you guys having in your plant with this? What type of issues are you having with your supply chain? Ask as many questions as possible. We have our process here that we follow when we talk to people. We have ways that we train industrial companies, whether you're selling capital equipment, machining services, robotic integration, packaging, cold steel, whatever it is. You have to ask questions. You have to figure out what is important to this person based on figuring out what problems do they have. Do they have issues with their supply chain? Hey, we've got issues with our supply chain. What specific issues do you have with your supply chain? Oh, it is delivery and the quality of the product is not consistent. We're dealing with a lot of rejects and scrap, etc. Okay, cool. So from a salesperson, you want to offer up a solution to that. So then you only will go down the path of the problems that they have. Why am I going to pitch you stuff that is not even relevant to your problem? What's going to happen is I'm telling you things that you don't need to know, don't care to know, so your listening is going to be less attentive when I'm offering up that solution. So if I talk to you and I say, let's take for instance, because I'm sure he's on here, Tim Drinkwater, right, who owns a CNC machine shop in Janesville. If Tim's on the call, which I'm sure he is, because we love Tim and he supports this channel and this mission that we're on. Tim calls up somebody and he's like, hey, wanted to see if you guys are open to adding another supplier. We're a machine shop, we're AS9100, we're TS16949, whatever it is certifications, right? They're like, yeah, what issues are you having with your supply chain? They're like, oh, we're having issues with capacity. Like none of our guys have capacity, or we haven't found somebody that can offer up this type of quality. Okay, cool. Then Tim's going to take that conversation and strictly go into offering up a solution based on the capacity that they have. Hey, we've got open capacity. This is how many machines we have. This is the current efficiency that we're running. This is the current capacity that we have open. What type of projects do you guys have? Oh, we need this many parts by this date, etc. So you can do all of that and going down the path to offer up the solution to the specific problem that they have. If you don't, then that conversation is going to be like this. Hey, we're a CNC machine shop. We're these certifications. We have these types of equipment. These are some of our customers, etc. I want to see if you guys have any projects for me to work on. They may come back and say, yeah, actually we do, based on that information that you said. But if you go into the specs and the equipment and the team and all the information that isn't really necessary in that first conversation, it's just a waste of time. So you want to ask strategic questions about issues that they could have. And you're basing your questions off of your experience in the industry. So you know not to ask dumb questions, but very strategic questions to try and pull that information out for them to use as a tool to then go back to them with a solution. And then you use their words against them. Hey, so earlier in the conversation, you mentioned that this was an issue. And I asked you, what type of dollar would you put to that? So somebody dealing with line down situations or can't get the parts fast enough or the quality is bad. So you mentioned that you're dealing with poor quality from your supply chain. What type of issues does that cause for you guys internally on what you're trying to make? Oh, we have these types of issues. And if you had to put a dollar amount behind that, what type of dollars do you feel like that's costing you because of this? Oh, it's this dollar amount. Now you can use that information to offer up your solution. And when you say, hey, look, to solve this issue, it's gonna cost you this many dollars to get that done. And if they push back on price, it's like, yeah, but remember, you said it's costing you this much money. So you use the information that you learn to help them offer up or help yourself offer up a solution, help solve their problem. And then if they give you pushback in the closing phase based on price, availability, lead time, etc., you then could say, hey, justify it based on X, Y, and Z. So too often people are doing the show up and throw up, not going after solutions or going after spec sheets. We see it on the capital equipment side, but even on capital equipment, you sell something that's a machine and you can customize that machine, or you have different types of machines. You got to ask them all these questions to figure out. I sell 6 different types of machine. What is the application that you're using this for? Oh, we're doing this. Okay, so that narrows you down to 1 or 2 types of machines. What type of are you looking to go? Hydraulic, electric, hybrid, etc. What's the application? What's the throughput that you need on the machine? Cycle time? All these things. You're asking all these questions about the application, and then offer up the solution of, okay, so for us to solve that problem, to make those parts, etc., you need this type of machine. Here's why this machine would be a great fit for you based on you answering these questions. So if you're trying to sell something that's newer technology, let's say, you can't even say new anymore, newer technology, all electric equipment, whether it's an injection molding machine, press, stamping machine, etc. We're going all electric. You're going to try and push that. You have to understand, what is the current product that they have? Do they have 20 hydraulic machines and they've been talking about, like, hey, have you ever guys looked at going in servo or all electric? Oh yeah, we have, but it's too expensive. Okay, well, the argument there is a cost savings on efficiency, precision accuracy, etc., etc. And then maybe there's ways to save money on electricity through grants, if they're giving grants to companies that are investing in technology that's energy efficient, etc. But you have to ask those questions first. So think about that the next time that you guys are pitching somebody or even marketing to somebody. You're sending out a cold email sequence and you go into this long storytelling stuff that's just throwing up information. Nobody cares about it. Direct and to the point. Just like on your sales calls, I want to be talking 20% of the time. I don't care if I'm selling our services as a marketing agency or if I'm selling equipment, machine shops, injection molding, robotics. It does not matter. I want to be talking only 20 to maybe 30% of the time. I want to be asking questions, getting them to tell stories, getting them to provide as much information as possible. Then I come in with a solution. So sell solutions, not specs. That's number 1. Number 2, that one sucks. Number 2, what is your value prop? Your value proposition, what makes you better than everybody else? How are you different? A fun game that I play with industrial companies is tell me your value proposition on the services side. So I'd say about 55, 60% of our clients are in the services side versus a physical product, physical industrial product. On the services side, tell me your top 3 things that make you better than everybody else, but you can't say quality, you can't say delivery, and you can't say customer experience. And they're like, oh, those are my 3. That's everybody's 3. That's just across the board. Everybody's like, my quality is the best. So does everybody else's. My customer service is the best. So is everybody. Oh, we're family owned. So is half of your competition, if not more, right? Everybody says the same thing. So you got to think of creative ways to make yourselves better. What is your value prop? Because you guys pitching your value prop, once you go into, you ask the questions, you're trying to offer up the solution, and they ask the question of like, well, what makes you better than Joe Schmo down the street? Oh, here's 2 things that separate us. Here's one main thing that separates us. So go through the value proposition in your mind, and it can't be the same thing as everybody else. Because if everybody else is saying the same thing, then you're just a me too company. So like for us, you want to work with a marketing agency, cool. We do B2B marketing. So does other B2B agencies. Yeah, but we're in the niche of industrial. Okay, now we're getting more focus. Less companies focus on that niche in industrial. Then take it a step further. We only work with industrial. Okay, so that's different. You got marketing agencies that do healthcare, education, general B2B services, comma, industrial. We only work with industrial. So now that group just got smaller. So our competitive base is smaller. So what separates us from those competitors? Well, it's the way we do things. It's the technology stacks that we have. It's the services that we offer. It's et cetera, right? We tell the story that way. No different than you guys. It does not matter if you're selling equipment, services, products. What makes your product better? What makes your service better? And you can't be using the same things that everybody else does. So you got to get your value proposition right to where when people do ask that question, you have something to answer that's not just, we have 99.99% on-time delivery. Okay, if that's all that matters to the person, then you can pull on that lever of a value prop. But if your other three competitors that are all bidding on the same project all say the same thing, cool. They all have great delivery. Well, our quality is the best. We have the lowest PPM, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. So does everybody else. So what really makes you different? Well, we have the most engineers. Okay. The other competition has engineers too. They say that they're the smartest. You say you're the smartest. They say that they offer cost savings. You say you'll offer cost savings. So what really makes you different at the end of the day? So get creative with it. Go through the process. Look at your competitor's website. What do they talk about? What's their value prop? What's the About Us page talking about? What have you known from the industry? That they say these 3 things, these 5 things. How can you stand out and be different? Because that's what's going to come down to when you're up against competition. It's you versus another shop or your product versus another product. So you got products behind us here. These products versus other products, what makes them better? You have to have something specific, because if you don't, then somebody's just going to say, it's going to be more an emotional based decision. Well, I don't like you as much. I like these guys better. Or it's ease of use situation. Well, I already buy from them, so I can buy more from them versus bringing you in as a new vendor because you're not offering me up anything better. So look at that value prop. Number 3, and we're only doing 3 because I don't want to bore you guys with more. I could talk for hours on this. The most important, and I will say this until I am blue in the face, follow-up. I will challenge any salesperson that I could outwork them because I could follow up more. Because I have this principle that at some point somebody's going to get sold, right? Either you're selling me on no or I'm selling you on yes. Would you agree? Yes, you would agree. Somebody's going to get sold. Bless you. So if you're selling me on no or not right now or no engagement, then I'm just going to give up. And there's no, like, the only way to fail is to give up. That's it. Like, my definition of failure is you fail when you stop trying. Otherwise, if you never stop trying, you can never fail. Now, things can fail and things cannot work, and you can change direction just in general in life. But if I never give up, then I can never fail. And if I never fail, then I can always have the opportunity to win. So if you don't engage with me, I'm going to follow up. I don't care if it's 1 million times. I will continue to follow up. It may reduce the frequency over time. Like, look, dude, I'm still following up. I just followed up like a month ago on a guy that I've been trying to get a hold of for 2.5 years. I've gotten a hold of him, then he ghosts me. Then I get a hold of him, then he ghosts me. And I try different methods, but the money in sales is made in the follow-up. Too often people, I don't care if you're 25 or 65, too often people are like, minimal effort. Hey, this person called, they wanted a quote. Are they going to buy? Yep, they are. Nope. You know what happened with that deal, Joe? I followed up a couple times. He never heard back from me, so he must not be interested in doing business. No, that's not the way that it works. They just don't. They've changed their priority, or it's not the highest thing on their list. That doesn't mean necessarily no. And if it means no until they tell me no, I'm going to assume that it's still a possibility. You can insert, Riley. You can insert in the final video the. So you're telling me I got a chance, that clip from that movie. But that's what it comes down to, is that either you give up on them or they tell you no. And until one of those things happens, you got to follow up. Trade shows, perfect example. Go to a trade show, 100 leads. What happens? You're hot to trot for those trade show leads for 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. After that, go back 6 months. Hey, did you ever follow up with that guy that you had the conversation with 6 months ago at that trade show? No, he never responded to me. Okay, so you just forget about it. So you just kick him to the curb. This is where having something like HubSpot, Salesforce, Apollo, any sort of CRM system in place, you never have to worry about remembering that. You can just say, I'm going to set a task 6 months from now. Once that task comes, you complete that task, you set the next task 6 months down the road. Put them into a nurture campaign email. Every 3, 4, 6, 8, 10 months, they're going to get an email. Hey, just want to know I'm thinking about you. Hey, wanted to follow up on this project. We talked about this a while ago. Didn't know if it was still viable or if there's still an opportunity to get this done. So you've got to continue following up with people. Otherwise, your pipeline is going to shrink. You get a lot in the top of the funnel, and it just gets smaller and smaller because you're only focusing on those ones that are engaging the most. There's not a salesperson out here that can say they're too busy for follow-up. That is an excuse that salespeople say, is that I'm too busy. Busy is normal, right? Everybody is busy. I'm busy. Riley's busy. Video team's busy. Automate. Everybody here is busy. Nobody's like not busy. So if busy is normal, what you're doing is not extravagant or above and beyond. So you can't say, yeah, sorry, I was too busy to follow up. Following up takes like 2 minutes or less. Send them a message on LinkedIn. So here's where we get into the strategy behind it. If you are following up, this literally just happened a week and a half ago with one of the sales guys that we have. He had a good conversation with somebody, and I know for a fact this is going to be the same thing that you guys are dealing with internally. Had a good conversation with somebody, sent him pricing. The guy said, hey, I got to talk to upper management about this. No different than you're selling equipment, you're talking to the buyer, you want commodity managers to buy off on it, etc. They're going to say, I got to talk to my boss about this, see if we can get this thing going. All right, cool. Follow up a couple weeks later. Hey, wanted to see if you had that conversation with your boss. No response. Follow up 2 weeks after that. No response. He did it 3 or 4 times over 2.5 months. The same method, just emailing. And in HubSpot or Apollo or any of these other systems, you can see it was sent, not opened. So I look at it and I'm like, he sent 4 emails. None of them were open. He had a good conversation, but we were waiting to see if he's had the conversation with his boss, the potential customer. So what do? I'm a man of action. I instantly go in there. Do I have a cell phone number? Yep. Look at that. It's in the signature. It even says cell phone. Somebody puts their cell phone number in a signature. I'm texting you. You left that information out there. I'm gonna use it. Pull up my phone and text guy. Hey, forgot his name. Let's just say, hey Steve, it's Kyle, MFG Tribe CEO. My guy was reaching out to you. You guys have a good conversation. Haven't heard back. This was the next steps. Can you please let me know what the deal is with the status of this project? I want to see if we can get something going. Did not respond to it. Come Monday, he sends an email to the salesperson saying, hey, need to have a conversation tomorrow, Tuesday, with my boss, the one that was waiting to make the decision or waiting to pitch it to. That stuff happens all the time. And I'm not saying that that's just simple the way it works. Me, one text happens. I get ghosted all the time. My sales guys bring me stuff, no engagement back, people's ghosting them. I text them, no response, call them, no response, etc. But the point I'm trying to make here is that if something's not working, stop doing it. If you've emailed somebody multiple times, you don't get a response, change your method of follow-up. Go to the phone call. So easy, right? You leave them a message on their phone, they don't respond to you. Go to LinkedIn. So in the beginning part of the sales process, you should have connected with them on LinkedIn once you start talking to them. So it's easier for you to shoot them a message on LinkedIn. You know how many times I've done that? Just this year alone, I've probably sent hundreds of email or messages on LinkedIn from potential deals that stalled for whatever reason. Maybe not hundreds, maybe 800. My guys do it all the time though, because you have to figure out how can I get a hold of this person. Just emailing them when they have 150 emails a day, you're going to get lost in it. So you have to change it up. How do I get a hold of this person right now? I've been in my office having a conversation with a salesperson. Yeah, they're not responding. What's the phone number? Give it to me. Dial it up, put it on speakerphone. Let's see if we can get a hold of them right now. Be a man of action or a woman of action. You have to take action in order to get the results that you want, but you have to change the follow-up method. So I think we all could agree on point number 3. Number 1, industrial and manufacturing salespeople and marketers don't follow up enough. They give up. Yep. If they are following up, point number 2, they're not changing the method of follow-up. They think it's just 2 things, phone call and email. It's not. Phone call, email, snail mail, text them, LinkedIn connection request, LinkedIn message, stop by for a personal visit. There's 7. You can get much more creative. Do Google retargeting ads or retargeting ads. Geofence their building, like what we're doing with a lot of our customers right now. Doing geofencing ads. Geofence their building so they see your branding. Then when you follow up, it's like you're trying to go after omnipresence. But follow-up is the worst. It's the worst than it's the biggest crutch that salespeople have is not following up enough, but especially in industrial. Usually they don't follow up enough because they're not organized, because they're not using a CRM, because they're not being managed properly, and they're not being held accountable to a standard that is so high. But I used to do this when I was in industrial sales, hold my team to a high standard. Did you follow up? Why didn't you follow up? Why are you waiting for all these things to happen? I used to say that if I have a sales meeting and we're going over deals on a weekly basis, what deals are open, and your response is always, I'm waiting, that's a bad situation. Hey, what's the status with ABC company? Oh, I'm waiting for them to respond. What's the status with this company? I'm waiting for them to get an answer from their GM. What about this one? I'm waiting for a PO. No, stop waiting. Just take action. What's the status with this? I followed up 3 times. I'm going to hit them tomorrow in this method. If that doesn't work, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. They're not engaging. Okay, cool. You got a plan. Waiting is not a plan. Waiting is what people that don't produce results end up doing. So we're gonna take a short break and watch this dope video. Riley, what's this video? Can I set it up? Okay, watch this dope video that we created for a company, and we'll be right back to answer questions and go through comments. All right, we're back. Let's jump through those comments, throw them up on the screen, Riley. Let's see who's here and who's got some questions. Besides Laura, who just came in from lunch. You got lunch, Laura?
Yeah.
All right, we've got a question from. Oh, my mic's really loud.
Ooh, Riley's got hot mic.
Tim asks, how might you use data to identify a niche proposition that appeals to your target markets?
How much, man, Tim, that is a mouthful. How might you use niche data? I know it's niche data to what?
How might you use data to identify a niche proposition that appeals to your target market?
Depends on the data, right? So that's a bit ambiguous term. So if you mean to find it or to generate your value proposition. So for in your case, Tim, I would say in machining in general, like the first thing you got to get across is, do you have a cert, right? ISO, ASTS, whatever it is. Do you have a cert? Then what types of products or industries are you going after to then determine how are you guys better? Like you work a lot in aerospace, med device, industrial, electrical components, etc. But what makes you different? What is your niche? Are you a general machine shop? Work with anybody? Anybody who's got stuff to turn and burn, you'll do? Or are you focused in a niche? So maybe provide some additional information on what you mean by that for your value prop, and I'll be able to give you a better answer there.
All right, we'll see if he follows up. And then we have a question from Diamond, and they ask, hey, Kyle, we specialize in selling drilling equipment. How can we encourage customers to choose our products over those offered by OEMs?
I'm assuming for oil and gas, you think? Drilling equipment, probably oil and gas. So how do they pick it? Yours over OEM. So when you're going to, if you're a smaller company, you're going against OEMs, a lot of times lead time and availability and pricing could be the main three. So you might be able to pull on the lever of like, you can't go after longevity. You can't really do service unless there's a known issue in the OEM industry of drilling components or drilling equipment where their service is just horrible. If that's a known issue, then use that as the value proposition. But you really got to have conversations. So talking to people and being like, what are 3 issues that you're having with this specific product, your drilling equipment, your drilling products that you guys are currently purchasing? Are you having any issues with it? Because sometimes they may be like, nope, we're good. Okay, can I ask who you're currently buying it from? So you're doing a little bit of market research. So that's where the salespeople that are having conversations usually can provide marketing and other salespeople insights into what should you really be focusing on with your questions, because they're having the actual conversations to know what levers are they pulling to then get engagement. So it could be delivery and lead time. If you're selling equipment, how are you servicing that equipment? That could be a value prop. But if the bigger OEMs are like, no, dude, I've got 8,000 trucks out there throughout the United States or throughout the South area along the Gulf. I got 8,000 trucks that are going to service all the equipment. Well, you can't compete with that if you're a smaller company. But maybe the technology behind it, go after efficiency to where your your equipment may not last longer, but it's more efficient. You're going to burn through less bits, burn through less tools, less preventive maintenance, et cetera, et cetera. So it depends on what the market is telling you the issue is, which I'm assuming that there's got to be a problem. Otherwise, you wouldn't be working for a company that created a solution to that problem. But too often, people just go into talking about their proposition and their value prop before even asking any questions. I don't want to tell you my value prop until I know what problems you have, because then guess what? My value prop is going to be directly related to those issues. So if you ask somebody a question like, yeah, what's the biggest issue you're having with this equipment? Servicing the equipment. Like, obviously this stuff is going to break, right? It doesn't last forever, but servicing it is an issue where we're waiting weeks for spare components. We're waiting weeks for a tech to come out, et cetera, et cetera. Then that at that point you could then go into, yeah, so we have a policy, we have this in place to help customers with that. From a service standpoint, we do X, Y, and Z. So you're using your value proposition in conjunction with the problem that they're having to offer them up a solution. So kind of all three go hand in hand.
All right, we'll see if they have a follow-up. And then Tim has another question.
Let's hear it, Karen.
If I wanted to add a service, machining or otherwise, how do you decide what to add?
Oh, that's a general question, Tim. How do I decide what to add? So first, identify a market. So somebody's already doing what you're thinking about, right? So figure out who that is, and maybe somebody locally to you in the greater Janesville area, greater Chicagoland area. So if you're like, hey, I do, for instance, you do machining, and now you want to talk about anodizing, annealing, heat treating, et cetera. So you've got like a secondary type of service that you offer. What I think what you're trying to ask is, how do you pick what that service should be, and how do you figure out the value prop behind it? So first step is figure out the TAM, which stands for total available market. How many people have a need for this? If you're like, I'm not going to do market research or pay somebody $20,000 to do that, cool. Don't even worry about it. How many companies do you know that do it? And how many customers they have that are doing it? So if there's somebody that only does it, there's obviously a need, right? You don't have to get the total available market like the specific number. Like in the United States, there's $6.3 billion spent on this total available market. But you can just look at companies that are doing it, and if it's common and if it makes sense, and from your standpoint, it is a value added proposition and not completely new thing, right? You're doing CNC machining, turning, milling, maybe you're doing like EDM work, stuff like that. And then you want to say like, oh, now I want to start selling lumber. Obviously, that's not a good vertical for you to be in. But if it's a value added proposition, and instead of you sending it out to have somebody else do it for you, or you're able to take business from other people in the area that offer that up as a service that then could lead into your main thing, that's a good situation to be in, and I would go after it. But it has to be something that's relative to where ideally you can take your existing customers and offer that up to where it's an instant revenue generator for you. Like, hey, I told you before we didn't do this, but now we do, so I don't have to outsource that anymore. Or hey, I know that you probably have products that do this, like let's just say heat treating. I know you probably have companies that do this for you. I don't know if you do, but if you do, we now offer it up as a service. We already make parts for you. Now we also could do this thing for you. So again, it all goes back to having conversations. Do your current customers have a need that you're currently not servicing? Step one. Step two, if you don't want to go that route and you're like, my customers don't have a need, what are other things that are value-added props, value-added services to your existing supply chain that you know you could do because competitors do it? And if they're doing it, there's a reason why they're doing it, because there is a market to do it for. So I hope that makes sense. Look at like what you're making, what are other things you can do with that, what's another service, tool, equipment, etc., that could be a revenue generator for you based on either current customers that already use it, that you could be like, hey, if I do that too, would you guys give me some business? Yeah, we would, Tim, we love you guys. Then it's like, cool, I'm going to buy the equipment. I can now justify the purchase. But before you do that, you don't want to rely just on your current customers. Are there people that already offer that service? If they do, then it's a likelihood that you could go into it and crush it.
That helps.
All right. And then we have a question from Reading Dave. He asks, is there any data for markets on what services and products are being discontinued?
Reading Dave. I'd like to know what Video Dave looks like, or Talking Dave, right? Wouldn't that be funny if we had someone that was like, I'm Talking Dave. What's up with Reading Dave? Data on, I just thought that and I totally was not 100% listening to Riley's question. is there markets that what?
Is there any data from markets on what services and products are being discontinued?
I mean, I'm sure that there are, like, the market research area of the world is like massive. But if you're talking about a product, like if you sell a specific product that is, like, for instance, like this thing sold by ABC company is going to be discontinued, and you want to sell something that while that's being discontinued, your product can replace it, and there's a market there. I'm assuming that's what you mean. And if that is what you mean, I mean, I don't know of any specific. I only talk about things I know about. I don't know of any specific sources or sites where it's like, hey, all these things are going to be discontinued if you sell aftermarket parts or aftermarket stuff to do that. Then you should sell those things or make those things. I don't know if there's something out there like that. I feel like if you're in a specific niche or vertical, and you're paying attention to the landscape of, if you sell aftermarket parts that replace OEM parts, then you should have fingers to the pulse of no big ticket items that are going to be becoming obsolete. But other than that, I don't know of any specific location. I would just Google it. And since you're reading Dave, I'm sure you're reading a lot. So just Google it, man.
And Reading Dave did say, once I put out videos, I'll call myself Video Dave.
Let's go. Video Dave. Video Dave is Reading Dave's alter ego. I love that.
And then we have a question from A. Fernandez Castro. He asks, hi, Kyle. How can I improve my technical knowledge without being a technician?
Learn from those that have the knowledge, read, watch videos. That's pretty much it. Also understand that you want to have enough technical knowledge to be dangerous to answer questions. You do not want to have all of the answers. If you have all the answers, then you're going to be spending time way too much on the technical side than on the selling side if you're in sales. But you should have a team to rely on. So part of it comes with experience. I got into the plastics industry when I was 26, knew nothing about plastics whatsoever. I had a strong technical aptitude. I could learn anything quickly because I think mechanically like that, and it's interesting to me. So I could learn things quickly, but I knew nothing about plastics. So I had to learn while doing it. It was like I was building the ship while I was trying to sail it. I'm trying to soak up knowledge internally from all the people that went to school for that know that stuff, owners, upper management, etc. And then also just by nature of going into conversations, selling to people, working on projects, I just learned things as I went along and just stacked up that information. So if you have resources internally to learn from, ask them those questions, retain that information. As something comes up from a sales process standpoint, you talk to them, and the potential client asks a question, you have to go get the answer. That should only happen once, right? If it's the same type of question, you should only have to go and get that answer once, because the next time somebody asks that question, you already have the answer from the last time that you asked for the right person to give you that answer. But I would just read and talk to people that have done it for years.
And then we have a question from Adam Schmidt. And he asked, how do you keep your mouth shut as an extrovert in a sales call?
That's good, Adam. Yeah, so that's a tough one. That's something that's like a personal battle that you'll have to deal with, right? Like you want to be leading and steering the conversation. How to keep your mouth shut? Know that them talking more means that you're going to sell more. So you talking less means that you're going to convert more. You're going to find out more information. So use your extrovertness and ask those questions. Bring the energy, bring the personality behind it. Ask those questions, and then ask more questions and follow up, and then wait for your time to provide them with a solution. So yeah, I totally get it. The issue that you might be dealing with, but I would say just be patient. Awkward silences are okay. And I always have to tell people that, like, you don't have to fill awkward silence. Like if you ask a question, wait for the answer, count to like 10. If nobody answers at that point, it's like, hey, are we still in this conversation together? But instead of filling that, you ask a question, then you offer up solutions to it. So that happens a lot. Where, what would you say the top 3 things you're dealing with in this area? Would it be this, and you're offering up those potential answers to your question? No. The question is simple. What are the top 3 things that you're dealing with on a daily basis? And then wait. And then as they respond back, ask additional questions. So it's really something you're gonna have to fight with yourself, but listening pays more than talking.
All right. And then Diamond followed up and they say, our niche is foundation drilling equipment and customers buy OEMs for their perceived superior quality. With price being a lesser concern, what strategies would you recommend to convince them?
So if they're buying OEMs based on perceived quality, but I'm sure you know, as most people know, a lot of times those OEMs don't have the better quality, and you as a small guy don't want to go into the situation and say, "Oh, you're buying the ABC company. Their stuff sucks, by the way. Like we've got data to support it." So number one, you can come with case studies and say, "Hey, we've tested our equipment versus the top 3 OEMs, not listing names, and these are the results that we saw." Um, and if price is not a concern because probably they're more expensive than you, I would have to pull on a different lever of the case studies support your quality claims, right? You saying that your stuff is better than their stuff. Every salesperson is going to say that they're better than everybody else. That's just the nature of the beast. So unless you come with raw data, a case study, we did these tests, here's the data to support these claims that we have, at least at a high level, again, not mentioning those specific OEMs, but we compared against the top 3 OEMs, some of which that I'm sure you currently buy from, and here's the results that we had. That's much more convincing than you being like, oh yeah, we have a product similar to ABC companies. Ours is better though. Like you have to think about it like that. It doesn't matter how much of a fancy bow you put around the bullshit that you're gonna say to somebody, they're still gonna think that it's bullshit. Unless you put a fancy bow around a case study, a white paper, something like that that says, here's the data to support it. And then from there, I would go into what is something else that's important to them, lead time or service or what. If price isn't an issue and it's just perceived quality, you have to come with some quality information to support it and then figure out another lever to pull. Because it's never just one. It's never just one thing. We don't have any other questions for now. So guys, if you got value out of this content, share it with somebody you know. We're just trying to grow the channel, grow the network, engage with the people in industrial. This is all we deal with on a daily basis here in our office in Texas. We just want to help as many people as possible. Anybody going to IMTS, I will be at IMTS from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I leave Thursday mid-morning, late morning. We head back. And then FabTech, anybody in the FabTech metal fabrication, FabTech in Orlando, we've got 14 people from this company that are coming down there. And it's going to be a fun time. We got a booth in the metal forming hall. Any last questions, comments? Riley? Riley's got nothing. That means I can go upon my day and maybe eat some lunch before my next meeting. Guys, head over to YouTube, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and I will see you on the next one.